Serving the greater Lehigh Valley with community and public television, this is WLVT-TV, Channel 39.
Hi, and welcome once again to String Along. Today we've got a piece with a distinctly classical flavor. It was inspired by a recording project I did a while back in San Francisco. I went there to produce an album by the very fine classical guitarist David Tannenbaum. So I think I'll change over, put my steel-strung acoustic down, and pick up a classic. Actually it's an electric classical guitar. But as always, this tune sounds just as fine on any kind of guitar, steel strung or classic. Let's, as always, check our tuning first. Here's the first string, and the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth. Now, if you use nylon strings, you probably notice that they wander out of tune all the time, particularly when it's warm, and boy, is it warm under the lights here. Okay, to our tune. I call it Spring Solstice. You notice how I'm holding the guitar. The body's resting on my left thigh in such a way that the neck is completely supported, and that leaves my left hand with nothing to do other than play the tune. I've also got my left foot raised up. This brings the instrument up to a good playing height. Now, you can use a guitarist's footstool or your guitar case, or be like a buddy of mine, Michael Coulon, and carry around a large block of wood with you. Okay, so get comfortable and let's take a look at the first bars. The tune's in 4/4, 4 beats to the bar, and it's in the key of G major. So let's tackle the first bar. Count 1, the middle finger picks the open second string, while simultaneously the thumb picks the 6th string, held down behind the 3rd fret. So let's try it. And again, and once more. Good. Now, count 2 is an index finger pick on the open 3rd string. Good. Count 3 is a thumb pick on the open 4th string. And count 4 is another index finger pick on the open 3rd string. So the whole bar is... Try it with me. How did you get on? Now, don't play it like a march. It's not. The tune should flow like a stream. Good. Now, the second bar, that begins with a middle finger pick on the 2nd string, held down behind the 1st fret, at the same time as your thumb picks the 5th string open. Okay? Then your index finger picks the open 3rd string for count 2. count 3 is a middle finger pick on the second string held down behind the 3rd fret. Do you notice the asterisk? At the same time as your thumb picks the 5th string held down behind the 2nd fret. And I'd use my 2nd finger for that. So, okay. Now count 4 is another of those index finger picks on the open 3rd string. So, let's try the bar together. And again. Once more. Remember to keep your thumb straight. It's not so difficult, is it? So, to the next bar. You slide your hand along the fingerboard and you fret the 2nd string behind the 8th fret with your pinky. Okay, so 5, 6, 7, 8, right. Now you'll pick this with your middle finger. Now you fret your 5th string behind the 7th fret. And I'd use the 2nd finger, and you pick it with your thumb. Okay, that's count 1, and the other 3 counts are silent, so it's 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay? Next bar, you slide your hand back a ways and you fret the 2nd string behind the 7th fret. And this time, you can use either your 2nd finger or your 1st finger, but that 5th string has to be fretted behind the 5th fret. Okay? Sounds like this. With me? And that's count 1. 2, 3, 4 are silent. Do you remember what we call this type of playing movement? Right, a pinch. By the way, are you using your thumbnail like me, or are you wearing a thumb pick? Classical players do tend to frown on the use of thumb picks, although one of the finest classical players ever, Mario McAfee, he always played with one. And Chet Atkins invariably uses a thumb pick whenever he plays classical guitar. So you can use a thumb pick if you really must, but I'd prefer it if you didn't. Just use a thumb. Now remember to keep your thumb out in front of your fingers, and always keep your thumb straight. So let's play the whole tune so far. Here's your tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now keep your right hand wrist up and your thumb straight and don't bend it. So here we go. Fine. Next 2 bars. Count 1 is another pinch with the middle finger and thumb on the 2nd string held down behind the 5th fret, and the 5th string held down behind the 3rd fret. Now count 2 is an index finger pick on the open 3rd string. Now slide your hand along the neck and you pinch the 2nd and 5th strings again, 2nd held behind the 8th fret, and the 5th held behind the 7th. That's count 3. Count 4 is an index finger pick on the open 3rd string again. So the whole bar sounds like this. And again. Once more. Okay, next bar. Count 1. Move your hand back down the neck and pinch the 2nd and 5th strings with the 2nd held down behind the 3rd fret and the 5th held down behind the 2nd fret. Okay. Count 2 is played with your ring finger on the 1st string held down behind the 3rd fret by your pinky. Now you can either move your pinky over or collapse it so that it frets both strings. See that? Now count 3 is a middle finger pick on the 2nd string held down behind the 3rd fret. Count 4 is another middle finger pick on the open string, 2nd string. So here's the bar. again. Now, boy, do we have to long travel in this next bar. Look at it first. Count 1 is a pinch on the 2nd and 5th strings with the 2nd string held down behind the 1st fret and the 5th played open. Count 2 is an index finger pick on the open 3rd string. Now you slide your hand up the neck and pinch the 2nd and 5th strings with the 2nd held down behind the 8th fret and the 5th held down behind the 7th. And count 4 is an index finger pick on the open 3rd string. So the whole bar is to the next bar. Count 1 is another pinch, and this time it's on the 2nd string picked open by your middle finger and the 6th string held down at the 3rd fret and of course picked by the thumb. Now count 2 is an index finger pick on the open 3rd string. Count 3 is a pinch on the 3rd and 6th strings this time. Both strings are held behind the 2nd fret. So I'd use the 2nd finger on the 6th and the 3rd finger on the 3rd. And count 4 is an index finger pick on the open 4th string. So let's try the bar together. And again. So to the next bars, which are exactly the same as the first 4 bars that we played. Try them with me. So, let's have a look at some more bars. Count 1 is a pinch on the 2nd and 5th strings with the 2nd held down behind the 5th fret by your pinky and the 5th held down behind the 3rd fret. Okay, now count 2 is silent. Count 3 is a ring finger pick on the 1st string held behind the 5th fret. Now the asterisk, that tells you to use your pinky, okay? Okay, and count 4 is silent, making the whole bar okay, next bar. Hey, at last a chord for us to hold down. Hold down a D chord. Now count 1 is a pinch on the 2nd and 4th strings. Use the middle finger and the thumb. Count 2 is a ring finger pick on the open 1st string, so you'll have to lift your 2nd finger off the chord. Okay, now put that finger back again, because count 3 is another ring finger pick on the 1st string, held down behind the 2nd fret by your D chord. And count 4 is silent, so the whole bar is again. Great, now next bar we change to a G chord. And we pinch on the 1st and 6th strings, both held down behind the 3rd fret by the G chord. The remaining 3 counts are silent, as are all 4 counts of the following bar. So, at the end of that bar, you'll see a double line and an instruction to go back to the start of part A once more. And that just means that you would go all the way back to the top and play all the way through to the double line again. So, now we get to part B of the tune. Count 1 of the first bar is a ring finger and thumb pinch on the 1st string played open and the 5th string held down at the 3rd fret. Count 2 is a middle finger pick on the 2nd string held down behind the 1st fret. Count 3 is a pinch with the middle finger and thumb on the 2nd string held at the 3rd fret and the 5th string held at the 2nd fret. And count 4 is an index finger pick on the open 3rd string. So the whole bar is tune, the thumb is required to do a lot more work than would normally expect of it. It's playing a counterpoint, a counter melody to the melody played by the fingers. Listen to the thumb notes while I play the first 4 bars of the B section. Okay, hear what I mean? Thumb notes are as important as the finger notes, so make sure that you pick them very cleanly. Okay, bar 2 starts with a pinch on the 2nd string held down at the 1st fret, and the 5th string played open. Now count 2 is an index finger pick on the 3rd string held down behind the 2nd fret, and I'd use the 2nd finger. Now count 3 is another pinch, this time on the open 2nd string and the 6th string held behind the 3rd fret. And count 4 is an index finger pick on the open 3rd string. So the whole bar is once more, and yet again. So, moving to the next bar, count 1 is a pinch with the index finger and thumb on the 3rd and 6th strings, both held down behind the 2nd fret. Okay, count 2 is silent. Count 3 is a pinch with the middle finger and thumb on the open 2nd and 4th strings. And count 4 is a middle finger pick on the 2nd string held down behind the 1st fret. So here's that bar. Okay, next bar. Count 1 is a pinch with the middle finger and thumb on the open 2nd string and the 6th string held at the 3rd fret. Okay, count 2 is another pinch with the middle finger and thumb on the 2nd string held down behind the 1st fret and the open 5th string. Count 3, middle finger and thumb pinch the 2nd and 5th strings again, but this time the 2nd is held behind the 3rd fret by your pinky, and the 5th string is held behind the 2nd fret. Okay, and count 4 is played by the index finger on the open 3rd string. So here's the bar. With me. Hear that counterpoint? So let's move right along. Try these bars on your own. I'll give you some help. Now count 1 is a pinch. Count 2 is an index pick. Count 3 is a middle finger pick. And count 4 is a ring finger pick. So try them now. How did you get on? Okay, watch me again. So let's move on to the next bar. Count 1 is a middle finger and thumb pinch on the 2nd and 6th strings. I'd use my 2nd finger to fret that 6th string. Now count 2 is silent. Count 3 is the thumb on the open 4th string. And the last count is a middle finger pick on the 2nd string. So here's how the bar sounds. Try it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Now there's only one count in the next bar. Now remember, even if you don't play a count, always leave a space in the music for it. So it's 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now, the next bar, the last one of this group, is another easy one. Count 1 is a pinch. Count 2 is an index finger pick. Count 3 is a middle finger pick. And so is count 4. Sounds like this. So here are the 4 bars. Now the next 4 bars are exactly the same as the first 4 bars of the tune. So we only have 4 bars to the end of the B part. So let's try them slowly, a bar at a time. Bar 1, and again. Once more. So how about the next bar? And again. So here's bar 3. And bar 4. And again. And that's the end of the B part. So, as always, everything that I'm giving you is explained fully in the book and record kit that I've written to accompany these programs. That's why I'll sometimes push you into trying bars without my explaining them. It's good practice for you to work things out for yourself. And if you do have difficulty, it's all explained in the kit. So, this is the tune from the start. So, till next time, happy playing.
To get the String-Along book and record kit, send a check or money order for $9.95 plus $2 postage and handling to String-Along, Center Valley, Pennsylvania 18034. That's String-Along, Center Valley, Pennsylvania 18034. Sorry, no CODs. In our next program, John Pearse shows how to set up a guitar so you can play slide.
Now you can play slide on any kind of guitar, even a classical, though the nylon strings make it sound a bit more like a banjo than a guitar. So take a look at what I've done here. This little gizmo is a Hawaiian nut adapter that I told you about. I told you to get one from your friendly local music store. As you can see, it fits very snugly over the existing nut. You just loosen the strings, slide it over the nut, put the strings over it, and then tune them up again. And its function is to raise the strings sufficiently high from the fingerboard that they won't rattle on the frets when you're using the slide bar, which is the other thing that you should have picked up from your friendly local music store. Now, to play slide guitar, we must also tune the guitar in a new way. Your second, your third, and your fourth strings stay the same. But the first has been lowered one whole tone, from E down to D. And the fifth string has been raised one whole tone, from A to B. While the sixth string has been raised 1.5 tones, all the way up from E right the way up to G.
He then teaches a tune in Hawaiian style. So don't miss the next program in the String Along series with John Pearse.
Public Affairs Allentown comes your way live Wednesday at 9 p.m. The program will feature Mayor Joseph Dodona and members of his administration in a discussion of problems pertinent to the city. The program will be live, and your call-in questions are invited during the telecast by calling 867-4677. That's Public Affairs Allentown live Wednesday at 9 p.m.
The Nightly Business Report.